My name is Michael Guido, and I'm the CEO of Kinetic Cloud and the founder of Structure.co. And like this serpentine wall behind me, my journey in construction tech has been winding. I grew up at the tail end of the savings and loan crisis and saw firsthand the struggle that commercial contractors go through. And that's why we built Structure.co, a construction platform that's built for builders, that rewards growth, doesn't punish it. We've created this builder series to celebrate the greatest builders of the world, and we're starting with Gustave Eiffel and his famous towers. I hope you enjoy the series, and please stay tuned, follow Structure.co to learn more.
How does a carefree student end up building some of the most iconic works of engineering in the world? This is the story of Gustave Eiffel, the man behind the Eiffel Tower, the Statue of Liberty, and some of the greatest European infrastructure of the 19th century. Alexander Gustave Boneckhausen dit Eiffel, or Gustave Eiffel, was born on December 15, 1832, in Dijon, France. His father was a cavalryman in Napoleon's army, and his mother owned a coal trading business. As a boy, Eiffel was described as not a serious student. He found school boring and a waste of time. But in his last 2 years, he began studying seriously, especially under the influence of teachers in history and literature. The official Eiffel Tower site describes him as having a gift for science, and as a carefree, energetic, undisciplined student. Gustave Eiffel initially wanted to study chemical engineering, to work in his uncle's vinegar factory. His father, being a loyal soldier of Napoleon, was a Bonapartist. His uncle, however, was a Republican. In mid to late 19th century France, this conflict was at a boiling point. Because of their political conflict, Gustave decided to instead study metal and structural engineering, which set the foundation for his future career. After graduation, Eiffel approached Charles Neveu, a railway engineer and equipment manufacturer, who gave him his first paid job as a private secretary. Shortly afterwards, Neveu found Eiffel a job designing a small 22-meter sheet iron bridge for the Saint-Germain Railway. That was his first real engineering task. By 1865, Eiffel had risen to become principal engineer at the Compagnie Belge, the firm that had absorbed Neveu's business. But the company was declining, and he could see the writing on the wall. So he did what any ambitious engineer with a head full of ideas would do. He quit, borrowed some money, and bet on himself. By 1866, at the age of 34, he started his own company on the west side of Paris. Contracts flooded in from everywhere. Within the first decade, his company had secured contracts for bridges in Romania, Bolivia, Peru, and Colombia, floodgates for a dam in Russia, and churches in Peru, Chile, and the Philippines. One of the most underrated projects from this period was a train station in Hungary. The usual pattern for a railway terminus was to conceal the metal structure behind an elaborate stone facade. Eiffel's design for Budapest used the metal structure as the centerpiece of the building. Then came Porto, Portugal. The bridge over the Douro River presented a serious challenge. The river was quick-flowing, 20 meters deep, with a bed of deep gravel that made building piers on the riverbed impossible. The bridge required a central span of 160 meters, greater than any arch span built at the time. Eiffel won the contract with a bid far below every competitor, finished ahead of schedule, and the bridge was ceremonially opened by King Louis I and Queen Maria Pia, after whom it was named. Next came the Garabit Viaduct, and this one matters because of who it brought into the room. Given the job without competitive tendering off the back of the Douro success, Eiffel assembled a new team, including a young graduate named Maurice Coquelin, hired to handle calculations and drawings, and Émile Nouguier, who worked on the Douro Bridge. These two men, sitting inside Eiffel's own company, would later sketch the very first concept drawing for the Eiffel Tower. The Garabit Viaduct, completed in 1889, was the highest railway bridge in the world at the time. In 1865, a Frenchman named Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi had a vision: a colossal statue of a woman holding a torch to be gifted from France to the United States in celebration of their shared belief in freedom and democracy. He had the artistic vision, but he didn't have any idea how to make a 150-foot copper statue stand up in the middle of a harbor without falling over. His first call was to Eugène Viollet-le-Duc, but he fell ill in 1879 and died. That's when Bartholdi turned to Eiffel. Eiffel and his structural engineer, Maurice Coquelin, built an iron truss tower. It was the same thinking he'd been applying to bridges for 20 years. stop fighting nature and start working with it. Eiffel made 3 years' worth of drawings, blueprints, sketches, and notes, which survive today, demonstrating the sheer amount of effort he applied to ensuring an unbreakable structure could be made. The entire statue was built first in Paris. The 300 copper panels, each just 2.5 millimeters thick, were carefully hammered into shape, secured to the iron framework and riveted together. The entire statue was disassembled into 350 pieces, shipped across the Atlantic and reassembled in New York. It was dedicated on October 28, 1886. The Statue of Liberty and the Eiffel Tower aren't just connected by the man who built them, it's literally the same engineering principle applied twice. The skeleton inside Lady Liberty was the proof of concept for the tower that would make Eiffel famous 3 years later. He just happened to do it in New York first. In May 1884, 2 engineers sitting inside Eiffel's own company, Maurice Coquelin and Émile Nouguier, were talking about the upcoming 1889 World's Fair and what could be done to make it memorable. They landed on the idea of a giant iron tower, 300 meters tall, taller than anything ever built. Coquelin went home and sketched it out. 4 legs rising from the ground, spreading wide at the base, narrowing as they climbed, connected by lattice girders all the way up. They brought it to Eiffel, but he wasn't impressed. The design was functional but raw, and Eiffel felt it lacked any visual appeal. He rejected it, but he told them to keep working. So they brought it to an architect named Stephen Souvest, who added decorative arches at the base, glass pavilions on the first level, and gave the whole structure a more refined look. They went back to Eiffel with the new version. This time, he was convinced. He bought the patents right from both engineers, each of whom received 1% of the total construction cost for their idea, and entered the project under his own name. In January 1887, Eiffel won the competition to build the centerpiece of the World's Fair. What happened next was extraordinary. Every single one of the 18,038 iron pieces that make up the tower was individually designed and fabricated at Eiffel's factory on the outskirts of Paris. The tower was completed on March 31, 1889. On that day, Eiffel climbed the 1,710 steps to the very top himself, accompanied by a group of officials and journalists, and raised the French tricolor flag. A 25-gun salute was fired from the first level. The world's tallest structure had just been built, and it had been built on time. After the tower was completed in 1889, Eiffel's company was contracted to build the locks for the French Panama Canal project, which was being led by Ferdinand de Lesseps. The canal company was bleeding money and secretly falling apart. To keep it alive, company financiers bribed politicians and journalists to stay quiet about how bad things really were. When the whole thing collapsed and went bankrupt in 1889, hundreds of thousands of ordinary French investors lost everything. The press needed scapegoats. Eiffel was one of them. Even though he was simply a contractor who had done his job, he was charged alongside de Lesseps with fraud and misappropriation of funds. In February 1893, he was found guilty, sentenced to 2 years in prison, and fined 20,000 francs. He appealed. The conviction was overturned. But the damage was done. His reputation had taken a serious hit, and rather than fight to rebuild his business, he walked away from commercial engineering entirely. It was a painful chapter for a man who had built his entire career on precision and integrity, and had genuinely nothing to do with the financial corruption at the center of the scandal. After he was acquitted and walked away from the business world, Eiffel was 61 years old. He turned his attention to the one thing he had always used as justification for keeping the tower standing in the first place: science. He started with meteorology. He had measuring equipment placed on the tower as early as 1889 and built a weather station at his house in Sèvres. He then built a laboratory at the foot of the tower in 1905, and his first wind tunnel there in 1909. The wind tunnel was used to investigate the airfoil sections used by early pioneers of aviation, including the Wright brothers, Gabriel Voisin, and Louis Blériot. The original permit was only allowed to stand for 20 years. 1909 was the deadline. Eiffel had the idea of crediting the tower with a scientific purpose. On November 5, 1898, engineer Eugène Ducretet carried out the first wireless telegraphy trials between the Eiffel Tower and the Pantheon, a distance of 4 kilometers. By 1909, an underground military radio telegraphy station had been set up, and the city of Paris renewed Eiffel's concession on January 1, 1910. During World War I, it intercepted enemy communications that changed the course of battles. He spent his final years still working, still publishing research, still building wind tunnels. He died on December 27, 1923, while listening to Beethoven's Fifth Symphony in his mansion on Rue Rabelais in Paris.